Welcome to Saturday Night Stories, scary stories for adults and brave teens. I'm Amanda from the Public Library of Youngstown and Mahoning County. Tonight we're going to take a trip through haunted Ohio. Have any of you visited a haunted Ohio location? I've always wanted to visit the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, where Shawshank Redemption was filmed. It is said to have many haunted stories. I haven't made it there yet, but maybe some of you have, or have visited other spooky locations throughout the state. Maybe some of you have your own stories to share. Now let's hear a few from some great haunted Ohio books. The first story is from a collection simply called Haunted Ohio by Chris Woodyard. The tale from this book I'm going to share is called Ghosts of Patterson Homestead and takes us back to Ohio in the 1800s. The Ghosts of Patterson Homestead. It has been said that ghosts happen when there has been a lot of living. There has been a lot of living in Dayton's Patterson Homestead, and, so it seems, quite a few ghosts. Built as a farmhouse in 1816 by Colonel Robert Patterson, Dayton's Patterson Homestead is a handsome, 3-story, federal-style brick building restored as a family home from the 1816 to 1868 era. Antiques and family memorabilia are displayed on the first 2 floors with its graceful staircase and tall windows. The 3rd floor, which is not open to the public, still has the remnants of family apartments. Trees and bushes set off the full beauty of the house, which overlooks a sweeping lawn on Brown Street. Festivals, speakers, and tours keep the house lively. Early in 1989, Kirby Turner, the director of the Montgomery County Historical Society, was working in the basement while a women's group held a meeting in the auditorium. Turner heard heavy footsteps on the stairs behind him. Thinking in irritation that he'd have to shoo the intruders away, he whirled. And then there was nobody there. There was no question in my mind that there had been somebody on the stairs, he says. Right away, he went up to the stairs to check the kitchen, with negative results. He even walked over to the meeting room to ask if anyone had strayed into the basement. Negative again. Says Turner, it took me a while before it hit me that it was something unnatural. He recollects that the footsteps were heavy ones, like a man wearing boots, and he is certain he heard them. On a cold April Sunday in 1989, a volunteer named Danielle found herself trapped by a mysteriously jammed door. She had just finished a tour and had gone to the kitchen for a cup of tea before her next group when the door into the kitchen slammed shut violently. Thinking that a breeze had caught the door, she pushed and pushed on it, but found that it was completely jammed. Then she heard her tour party knocking on the front door. Oh no, thought Danielle. I'll have to go out the back kitchen door and around the front to let them in. At that, a door leading from the adjoining pantry into the dining room slowly swung open. Danielle was baffled. The door to the dining room had been kept locked as long as she had been there. It took 2 people to unstick the jammed door in the hall. Another mysterious breeze arose when Mrs. Dorothy Patterson visited the house. As she walked through the front hall, a strong wind came out of the parlor on the left, as if someone were breezing by. One of the most puzzling incidents concerned some gingerbread men, Christmas decorations, which had been dipped in a foul-smelling formalin-based preservative and hung on a line in the basement to dry. The next day, Patterson manager Molly Williams went to the basement and found all but one of the cookies yanked off the rope, lying on a table beneath. At first, she suspected Mats or Rice had chewed through the strings, but the strings had been vigorously jerked apart, not gnawed. Molly Williams and Kirby Turner are the only persons with keys to the house, and they were mystified. Did one of the Pattersons object to the smell of the preservative, which might have reminded him of embalming fluid used during the Civil War? Or did it offend some ghostly, but still fastidious Patterson housewife? Patterson has his own ghost of Christmas past. During a Christmas tea, 8 people were being given a candlelight tour. On the second floor, one of them came to Mrs. T, the tour guide, saying, "Didn't you say we were supposed to go up to the 3rd floor? Didn't you say we weren't supposed to go up to the 3rd floor? I just saw someone walk up those stairs." Mrs. T quickly counted heads and immediately rushed to the stairway. From the side, she saw the legs of a man wearing tall, polished boots ascending the stairs. As she reached the bottom of the stairs, she saw the man looking down at her from the 3rd floor. It was a man in military uniform wearing riding boots. Perhaps Frank Patterson, who was killed while testing aircraft at Wright Field. And then he wasn't there. Patterson volunteers have smelled ghostly odors like a light flower perfume, fresh baked cookies, and boiling green beans in the empty kitchen. When I toured the house, I felt someone on the 3rd floor, one of the 2nd floor bedrooms, and in the basement. Psychic Mickey Adams felt an intense sadness in the front bedroom, a woman rocking her sick child. Medium Kathleen Cook saw a man at the desk in the front room downstairs. He was just sitting there watching everybody. I didn't ask him anything. She felt spirits in other rooms and had heard children laughing and playing. Many volunteers have experienced the feeling of a presence. A benign presence, thinks Kirby Turner, like they are watching over the house, interested in what's going on. Manager Molly Williams, who has been so effective in making the house a popular attraction, says that people used to complain about Patterson Homestead being so cold. Now they say the house feels much warmer, as if a ghostly someone approves. And that is the Ghosts of Patterson Homestead. Now we're going to hear some stories from a newer Haunted Ohio book. It just came out last year and is called Haunted Ohio, Ghosts and Strange Phenomena of the Buckeye State by Charles A. Stansfield, Jr. The first story from this collection I'm going to share is The Phantom Ambulance. A family from New Jersey had an interesting and probably life-saving experience while driving along the shores of Lake Erie on US 6 west of Cleveland. These New Jerseyans, who wished to remain anonymous, encountered a fog along the lakeshore, which is not unusual. It can move in quickly and reduce visibility to a few feet. These tourists were cruising along, admiring the scenery, and not noticing the occasional wisps of mist in low-lying areas. Their minds were focused on a planned visit to Cedar Point Amusement Park, with its world-famous roller coaster. Suddenly, flashing red and amber lights appeared in their rearview mirror. They pulled over onto the road shoulder to allow a speeding ambulance to flash past. As they slowly edged back onto the highway, a billowing fog bank suddenly engulfed them. Visibility fell to nearly zero. As they crept into the dense mist at low speed, barely visible and stationary taillights ahead warned them to stop, and just in time. A multi-vehicle crash caused by the fog had littered the highway with broken cars and people. They carefully pulled over to the edge of the road and set out some emergency flares that the father, a member of a volunteer fire department back home, always carried. Within minutes, a state police cruiser arrived on the chaotic scene. The trooper summoned more help, then complimented the tourists on setting out flares, probably preventing an even larger pileup. But how did the New Jerseyans avoid becoming part of the multiple crash scene? "We had pulled over to the edge and stopped to allow the ambulance to pass," they explained. so we were moving slowly back into the traffic lane when the fog moved in. "What ambulance?" asked the officer. "There is no ambulance here, and one could not have moved past the crash scene without hitting wreckage." The lucky family decided that a guardian angel must have sent a phantom ambulance to warn them of the dangers ahead. And that is the story of the phantom ambulance. The next tale is from the same Haunted Ohio book and is called The Phantom Disciplinarian. Do any of you have a favorite teacher? The Phantom Disciplinarian. The school looks very ordinary. It stands on a whole block of land, including its black-topped playground, in a part of Cincinnati that was built up mostly from the 1920s through the 1940s. The public elementary school is of a classic 1930s design. A 3-story brown brick building trimmed with glazed terracotta and yellow, green, and purple. Inside, the floors are covered in worn brown linoleum tiles, and the hallway walls are of a yellow glazed brick. Nothing extraordinary. Graduates from long ago, returning as parents or grandparents, attending school plays or basketball games, remark that the school not only looks the same as when they were pupils, but also smells the same. A mixture of dust, chalk, sweat, and disinfectant. Many who work at the school, teachers, secretaries, janitors, and administrators, believe that something else hasn't changed either. The presence of Miss Brooks, a one-time teacher there who died decades ago. Miss Brooks was a strict disciplinarian. She would not tolerate misbehavior. Definitely old school. She did not hesitate to pinch an errant student's arm or ear or smack a rear end to enforce the rules, which Miss Brooks held sacred. Her principal and fellow teachers loved her. Just a frowning glare from Miss Brooks could bring instant order and quiet to a roomful of restless kids. In these days, when any corporal punishment, no matter how richly deserved, triggers lawsuits, Miss Brooks wouldn't get away with it. But dead people can't be sued, and ghosts care nothing about angry parents. Miss Brooks' spirit seems to have decided to stick around the school where she spent so much of her life, and she is still enforcing the rules her way. No one has actually seen the ghost, but young lawbreakers claim to have felt her collective smack or tweak. An unseen but definitely felt hand delivers a whack on the seat of pupils who talk when they shouldn't, harass other kids, or don't maintain a straight line during fire drills. To be fair, it must be noted that Miss Brooks' spirit can be very protective of students in real danger. One boy reported that as he was about to cross the busy street in front of the school, an unseen arm was flung across his chest just as a car ran a red light and surely would have killed him if he had not been restrained. So behave, stay in line. No talking. Obey the rules or risk the wrath of the ghost of the disciplinarian teacher. All right, and that is Miss Brooks from Cincinnati. And one more tale from this collection is Thanks for the Memories. Definitely a little bit of Ohio history with this, and it reminds us that not all ghosts have to be scary. All right, so this is Thanks for the Memories. Not all ghosts are grim and scary. Some ghosts can be disarmingly entertaining, even funny. They break all the rules. Come to think of it, all ghosts are rule breakers by definition. They defy the fundamental laws of physics and biology by their very nature. It should not be surprising that such a light-hearted, charming ghost is, in fact, the spirit of the man who is a very successful entertainer in life. Meet the phantom of comedian Bob Hope. Bob Hope was born in England and was brought to this country by his family at the age of 4. He grew up in Cleveland and began learning his craft as a stand-up comedian there. which might explain why his ghost has chosen to appear there rather than his long-term home in Southern California. Among the many rules broken by his spirit is the convention that ghosts tend to be highly territorial, confined to one location. His phantom has appeared as a boy riding streetcars, light rail to use a more modern name, through Cleveland, and as an old man sitting in antique streetcars at the Northern Ohio Railway Museum in nearby Sellville, Ohio. Street entertainers, musicians, jugglers, dancers, and magicians have enlivened urban life for centuries. Streetcar entertainers are a bit more unusual. Bob Hope's first forays into show business actually took place in Cleveland streetcars. Young Bob had figured it out that on a streetcar, you had a captive audience for at least a few minutes. Now, workers commuting to and from work could be a tough crowd from which to coax smiles and loose change. Ditto harried mothers carrying shopping bags and shepherding unruly kids. However, Clevelanders of a century ago used the streetcars to go to Luna Park, a local amusement park. As in many American cities at the time, Luna was a trolley park, built and operated by the local streetcar company. They made money by selling tickets, food, and souvenirs, as well as by selling streetcar rides out to the park. Families bound for Luna Park were in a happy mood, looking forward to a day of fun. They cheerfully tossed a few pennies to the brash, smiling youth who entertained them with dancing, singing, and jokes. Bob Hope began his unique venture into show business at the age of 12 in 1915, where over 900 streetcars rattled through Cleveland and its suburbs. Hope's streetcar performances helped him to perfect his comedy style of delivering snappy one-liners in rapid succession. I grew up with 6 brothers. That's how I learned to dance, waiting for the bathroom. A bank is a place that will lend you money if you can prove you don't need it. He made his first feature film in 1934 and went on to star in 54 movies. He never received an Academy Award nomination, which led him to joke at every one of his 19 stints as the host, "Welcome to the Academy Awards," or as we say in our household, Passover. That was typical of his self-deprecating humor. "The doctor delivered me to my mother. Congratulations, you have an 8-pound ham." He made a career telling political jokes. "It's so cold here in Washington, D.C. that politicians have their hands in their own pockets." But they were gentle compared with today's political humor. His barbs were never dipped in the acid of excessive partisanship. He made 57 tours of overseas military bases, often under combat conditions. One plane coming in got a 21-gun salute. 3 of them were ours. To this day, some riders on Cleveland's Blue, Green, and Lakeshore transit lines believe they have briefly glimpsed a dancing jokester humming "Thanks for the Memories," Hope's signature tune. A much older-looking spirit is said to haunt the vintage streetcars on display at Seville's Railway Museum. This ghost is a quietly reflective old man, perhaps reminiscing about his long life of success and sincere generosity. A man who doesn't have a generous nature has the worst kind of heart trouble, Bob Hope would say. As he lay on his deathbed, his wife asked where he would like to be buried. "Surprise me," he replied. "Thanks for the memories, Bob. Your only reaction, should you see this particular ghost, will be a smile." Okay, and that's just a few stories from Haunted Ohio by Chris Woodyard and Haunted Ohio Ghosts and Strange Phenomena of the Buckeye State by Charles A. Stanfield Jr. You can check out these books at the Public Library of Youngstown and Mahoning County and read many more great Haunted Ohio tales. And that's all we have time for tonight. We hope you enjoyed Saturday Night Scares, and we'll be back next week for another scary story. Join us again, if you dare. Good night.